Welcome, everybody, to the Lunch Table Podcast, your podcast from a galaxy far, far away. We are here to review episode 8 of Andor, now out on Disney+. We get some new character developments as we see the Empires and the Rebels scheming their next plans. But Akram, what were your thoughts on episode 8?
I really enjoyed this episode. It's so different again, and I think they keep hitting it, right? I think it hits all marks for me again and again and again. I love the show so much, and I love this episode. And it was really interesting to see how prisons are in Star Wars, or like this type of prison. It was so like high maximum prison. And I can't help but to think, like, how would I escape from there as well, right? So I had a lot of like anxiety watching this, but what were your thoughts?
Yeah, that shit felt like fucking like Arkham or some shit.
Right.
Like the prisons are like literally like the most like Star Wars like tends to like exaggerate like the best and worst of like our modern society. So this felt like a really like maximum security like facility. So Andor, he felt like I felt his stress like in this episode because he kind of was like looking off screen like oh so I felt his stress in this episode. But yeah, we also saw Guerrera in this episode. So Luthen actually like goes to see him to make this deal. So what did you think about seeing him back?
Oh yeah, that was awesome. I always glad to see Forrest Whitaker. I don't see much of him. Saw Gerrera, man, he's everywhere. And I keep forgetting that he has such a pivotal role to play in the Rebel Alliance because again, we're seeing him everywhere, so it makes sense. And I just like how different they are. But they kind of want to achieve the same goal, but they just want to take like two different paths to achieve it. So it's a huge contrast. Luthen, I think that Andor actually could learn a lot from Luthen still. Andor really reminds me of like a younger Luthen, and I just want to see them connect again. And I like the fact that, Luthen, he's backed into a corner. He actually needs help. You think he probably doesn't, but he actually does. And especially for Saw Gerrera, that's already struggling. So that just shows you how screwed the Rebel Alliance is at first, at least. Money-wise, assets-wise, and everything in between. So yeah, a lot happened in this episode. And I think a lot happened also with Cyril. He's not eating cereal this time. That's awesome. He's just...
he finished that bowl, I guess.
He's finished that bowl, editing a podcast like us in that office.
Shit.
You commented last time about like the little sci-fi modernized type of like approach to a suit, right? So I think that was cool. We saw Luthen with a weird tie. So give me your thoughts. I'm sorry, not Luthen. Give me your thoughts on Cyril though, because he had a lot in this episode.
Yeah, this is his first step towards kind of like, I guess, his promotion. So we predicted in the last episode that maybe he'll meet up with Deidre, and that does happen in this episode. So he starts like his own kind of like private investigation because he's trying to find Andor because he still like holds him responsible for what happened on Ferrix. And then that catches the attention of Deidre, and then she kind of like interrogates him. And then at first she thinks like he's like, this pathetic guy, like you're nothing, like
Not to me.
but then she starts to realize that he may actually like have some like value to like his story. And then she kind of brings this to like the ISB council, and they start well, she starts to like kind of like build this case towards like these rebels and like what Luthen is doing, because they're trying to find Luthen because Luthen is, I think they call him like the Axis. So he's like responsible for, I guess, this like network of I get it makes sense because like he knows Saw Gerrera, so maybe he has like contacts with like some of the other like rebel groups or sects, right? Because he's built this kind of like rebel network, and he actually like Luthen in the episode, he actually like breaks the frequency with Bix because he thought it was too dangerous. Um, yeah. Also, what did you think of Mon Mothma in this episode?
Yeah. Yeah, we got to her late actually in this episode. How is she always in her house? Like every day is like a house party. It feels like
Shit, I guess,
Euphoria.
shit.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, girl, I see you,
It's
but
like a
like,
never-ending gala. Shit.
yeah, damn. Like, how many dresses do you have? Yeah, they maybe have a license for
Coruscant
alcohol.
Coachella or something.
Right, I
Yeah.
know. Like y'all are about to go to the Oscars after party.
Right.
Yeah, no, that was cool. The husband, well, first of all, that worm thing, I just love how Star Wars like twists these type of like cuisines and like different drinks and stuff. That
Right.
was the first that I
Little
ever seen in my
martini
life.
thing.
That was
Yeah.
weird. Yeah, that looked nasty. But yeah, I don't know. Something about the husband is still very fishy. But at least in this episode, I like that they were talking more about Palpatine, trying to like, I don't know, deal with like how to go around his like decisions and whatnot, or like how to make some bills here and there. It's just like a lot of small talk. Not a lot happened with Mon Mothma in this episode, but
Mhm.
at least we get again every episode we get a little bit more and more into the mindset. She
Right.
kind of wants to break free.
Well,
What were your thoughts?
yeah, I like the back and forth. I like that this episode shows us kind of like that high society that she's involved with, but then we go back to
Mm,
Andor and he's kind of like the low tier, like he's with, with all the underdogs, right? He's with like kind of like the people that this legislation kind of like affects, right? So we go back and forth. We see like the inner workings. We see like how the high society thinks in Coruscant. They're like, "Oh yeah, well,
yeah.
if they have nothing to hide, then they have nothing to worry about this new legislation, right?" So I like that kind of like political like theme that they play with.
That ties it in, right? And especially that there was a conversation in the prison, and they were talking about like, "Damn, we're all getting like more time into our sentences and stuff." And
Right.
yeah, that's true. I like that. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's true. Like that shows you. It's like almost like an
Mhm.
exploded view of politics, and you get to see every element, every piece. Yeah, so I think that's
Right.
awesome. Yeah.
Well, speaking of the prison, we also get introduced to Kino, played by our own Snoke Gollum himself, Andy Serkis.
I
So what'd
know.
you think of seeing him like as a live action character?
Well, I'm mad because I was hoping that the prison guard would tell him to do something. He's like, no, or something like Caesar did. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that guy's voice. Wakanda. I love seeing him again. He's such a phenomenal actor. And it's interesting because he's kind of like the captain of that whole section in the prison.
Mhm.
Even the prison design is really cool. I'd like to even talk about that a little bit later because that's really unique. I thought they were all wearing like Yeezy, like whatever Adidas on at first. I was like,
Right.
oh, the floor. Okay, it's electric.
Right. You see the check on the on the boots or
Right.
something.
Yeah, what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that was cool. It felt like something out of like Jedi Fallen Order or something. Like
Yeah,
the whole floor is made of, I think it was called like tungstoid or
it's
something. It
weird,
was
yeah.
like yeah, it's like they electrify the floor. That's why none of them wear shoes. I thought that was like a really like cool concept. I mean, it's a fucked up concept, but it's like how like the Empire their methods are like so extreme.
Yeah,
Um and like how their prisoners are basically just like numbers basically. They're just another like they said like the newbies are just basically replacements for whoever like dies off, right? So they don't treat like their prisoners like people. They treat them kind of just like as worse than droids, I would say. Um but yeah, so what else happened in this episode?
oh, well, yeah, so actually later on, we still most of the prison, we get to see more most of the prison. It kinda reminds me of The Raft as well, from the MCU. And yeah, I'm really wondering because now Luthen is trying to search for Andor, and he really wants to get him back in touch with Andor. And we also see, we see Vel. She's
Oh,
right
that's right.
now, and yeah, and
Mhm.
apparently, like, Marva's like sick too, which makes me really sad. She even has like that little face, like that, like she looks
Mhm.
really ill. I feel so sorry for
Aw.
her. And Bix tried to communicate with Luthen or like anybody could get in touch with Andor, but they shut it down because there's like a high risk now. So I'm wondering, will there be a prison break for Andor a little bit later on? There must be because Andor can't even walk on the floor, right, at certain times. So I
Mhm.
wonder how they're gonna approach that.
Oh, I bet you this is how he meets,
Oh,
K2SO.
oh
I
yeah,
bet you in the next episode that's what, because he's a security droid, right? So it makes
right,
sense. Maybe he like reprograms him into like escaping somehow. Because he's
yeah,
a
maybe,
droid, so droids
right,
don't get affected by the floor.
uh huh.
So maybe that's how he gets out.
That's a good, yeah. Actually, that makes a lot of sense. Maybe he'll carry him or something like that.
Right.
Oh yeah, and then probably Andor will get the boots and like give it to everybody. Maybe he's gonna try to like get people on his side to like escape.
Because remember Luthen said, right, he told, Saw Gerrera, he's like, "You have to inspire the Empire to oppress people, because oppression breeds, like, all these people getting upset and shit, so I bet you he's gonna break, like, all these, like, prisoners out, and maybe that's how they kinda, like, start recruiting for, like, soldiers for the rebellion."
Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, and they're certainly super oppressed in that prison. And not only that, though, it's interesting because I'm thinking, okay, but how is once he's outside, he can't like swim because it's like, and then there's like whirlpools all around. So it's like super maximum. I also wanted to make a quick mention. I love the fact that the practical effects they used here were brilliantly like made. And the fact that it looks like the actors had to rehearse, actually had to put together this machinery and stuff like that. You know how complicated that is just for the prop workers to make something fictional but it looks like like it makes sense and you actually had to build it. That's amazing. Props to them, honestly, and props to the score too, because this score still to this day was amazing. And but what else, like other thoughts you have on this episode?
I feel at times it's kind of weird that we only see like a few aliens. Like I feel like
Oh
all the
yeah, dude.
prisoners were humans for some
Right.
reason. I felt like I was in like Camino, like looking at the clones or something.
Ah.
You think in like a whole galaxy there would be like all these like different like types of species. That's my only critique with it. I think everything else was great. But yeah, just to tie it back to the Star Wars universe. So, what are your predictions for episode 9?
I don't. So episode 9, huh? We're near the end, guys. We're near the end. I wonder if we'll finally, like you said, get K2SO. But I wonder how he's going to escape. Is he going to escape in the next episode? And how are you going to tie everything together? I mean, we saw Saw Gerrera. I want to see how you're going to tie everything together to make sense when we actually get to Rogue One. I don't know. I feel like the next episode's it's gonna kind of be like this chill episode. Like not a lot going on until a little bit later on. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. We saw Mon Mothma was like trying to move her like funds or something. That's why she hired that guy. I think his name is Tay or
Yeah.
something. So I wonder like if like maybe she gets like discovered and wouldn't it be crazy if like Mon Mothma had to pull some Andor shit and like kill somebody, and then that's when
Oh.
she realized like there's no turning back or something. I kind of want to see like Mon Mothma like tested like how far she'll go for this rebellion.
Ooh.
Um, yeah, Vel, I wonder if she'll actually maybe she's also responsible for getting Andor out of Narkina 5 as well, because she's like kind of like hunting him down too. I wonder if like she'll be able to go through with like killing him too. Um,
I know. I know. You know who's gonna get Andor out? The least expected person, Dedra and Cyril, because they're actually trying to, and that's not even his name. They're gonna get
oh
him out
fuck,
because they're
that's
trying to
true,
track him
yeah,
down.
because
Yep.
they need him, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
they need him to. Oh, that's crazy. That's a
Yeah.
crazy thought.
And
Yeah,
then
that makes
from
sense
there,
actually.
yeah, because you have to get off that planet. Like, okay, we escape, but we need a ship. So now I'm thinking, okay, there's the heist of getting Andor out, and then there's another heist of
Mhm.
actually getting Andor out of the clutches of Cyril and Dedra.
It could be like a thing where like the Empire's trying to get him and Vel's trying to get him, so
Right.
they're both trying to get him at the same time, but he's still trying to escape that. I think that could be like a really like interesting episode.
Yeah. It's probably gonna be like that heist episode where it's like all high stakes and very energetic, right? And very nerve wracking. And I still think Cyril maybe will have a change of heart and join the Rebel Line somehow. If not Cyril, maybe Dedra. I know Dedra's set on her like motives, but you never know. Like there could be like this big twist where she's like,
Mhm.
Cyril, all he wants to do is move up, but he can't. People keep shitting on him. So what if Dedra can
Mhm.
actually move up and then she realizes things, right?
Well,
Because she has
Sorrel
a
wants
clear mind.
justice. He wants justice for the two cops uh that Andor killed. So maybe if Andor actually like tells him what happened and how they kind of like stood him up, maybe he'll have a change of heart too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he wants to be part of like this bigger world, right? So yeah, who knows? Maybe he'll have a change of heart next episode.
Yeah.
Um, and I hope Marva makes it. She's one of my favorite characters.
I
All right,
know.
if she doesn't make it the next episode,
I know, right? Yeah. Well, what would you rate this
um,
episode?
I would give this episode 8 out of 10. It hit all marks for me. How about you?
Probably a 9 out of 10. I'm enjoying the series thus far. But yeah, everybody, that's our thoughts for episode 8 of Andor. If you made it to the end of this video, as I always say, please drop a like. It'd greatly help us out. Yeah, so after this, we're probably going to review A Handmaid's Tale. That's going to be really fun. And we have a lot of content coming up too. And we're going to record more spooky stuff because spooky season is almost over. But as always, Dylan, take us away.
Thank you guys for tuning in for this review of Andor Episode 8. If you're not following the channel already, please do. You can also follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor as well. And you can also follow us on Instagram. Our social media tags are in the description in this video. But thank you again for tuning in. We have a lot more content, like Akram said. You can check out our playlists already, all the great Star Wars, Marvel, and other content that we've already covered. So thank you so much. And until then, may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you. See you guys.